Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are glad you are here, and just by showing up, you're already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, I'm pleased to present two very interesting guests from the live touring and festival space. Rather timely since the summer touring season is already well underway. I promise you will leave today smarter and more enlightened than you arrived. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I run the music practice at Turnkey ZRG, and I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the conversation. Also, please make sure your chat is set to address everyone, not just the host and speakers. I want to thank our program sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this series free. Special thanks to First Horizon Bank, Turnkey ZRG, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, MedJet, Tennessee Brew Works, Project Music, and Better Than Booze. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome David 51 Norman. With over 40 years of international touring experience, David's journey has been as a tour director, tour manager, production manager, and tour accountant for many of the world's top artists covering all genres of music. Artists like Prince, John Legend, Green Day, John Fogerty, Earth, Wind & Fire, Avicii, Alicia Keys, Robert Plant, Alison Krauss, Evanescence, Fall Out Boy, Tony Braxton, the British Rock Symphony, and Tyler, the Creator, just to name a few. God, imagine the stories this guy could tell, y'all. During the pandemic, David became an adjunct professor at William Patterson University for the music business program. He's also been a guest lecturer at many other music business schools and spoken on podcasts, webinars, as well as several conferences, and written numerous professional articles about his time in the touring industry. David also sits on the board of several entertainment companies. He was also the 2022 recipient of the Sam Old School Hardin Award, which recognizes an industry leader who dedicates their time and energy to mentor and teach those just beginning their careers. Welcome, David. It is such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Tom.
And joining David as today's featured guest is Sharon Lee. Sharon serves as the driving force behind High Road Incorporated, a trailblazing trucking company that supports the live music and touring industry. As the founding partner of High Road, Sharon's 2 decades of experience in logistics management and sales have played a pivotal role in guiding the company on a dynamic path guided by the philosophy, no road is long with good company. Recognized for its artist-focused, employee-driven ethos, High Road mirrors Sharon's unwavering commitment to personal values and desire to contribute meaningfully to the tour industry. High Road has supported a myriad of artists in various ways, in various genres such as Maneskin, Her, Collective Soul, Masaga, Dropkick Murphys, The Driver Era, and Andy Grammer, to name a few. It is my pleasure to welcome these two touring rock stars to our platform today. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Tom. That was a very cool intro. Really appreciate it. 5-1, I have to say the first thing as he was doing your intro and my intro, and I realized maybe for the first time, we've never toured together.
We haven't. We've got to make that happen this year.
We have to fix this. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Super excited. Hey, everybody. I'm seeing so many people in the chat. Rachel, Lindsay, hey, Johnny Wahlberg, Luke, great to see y'all. Kara from TCW is there. Awesome. Let's jump in and chat. I mean, this is not hard for you and I. I think the hardest thing is going to be for us to keep this to under an hour.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So why don't we just jump right in and talk about let's talk a little bit about networking. I think you and I, that's really our, as we've not toured together, but our opportunities to really spend time together face to face is all centered around these events, right? So
Mhm.
conference at Lidditz and Polestar and TCW events and things like that. Let's talk about the importance of that, because I see that there's a lot of people in the chat that are maybe newer or coming into the industry. There's a handful of students there. Let's talk about the importance of networking. How's that impacted your career?
Well, when I was coming up, I had three great mentors. A gentleman named Tom Barfield taught me learn everything you can about the industry, and when you're networking, make sure you try to leave a good impression on people. Don't just come to people, hey, I'm looking for a gig. You have
Yeah.
to learn to play the long game. Sometimes you have to set up a relationship, a friendship. And I think that's how you and I met, is we were at a networking kind of event. And even though we come from not necessarily two totally different worlds, but our worlds interlink because we're both in the touring industry. And our good friend Rachel Bronstein, who we started this little informal group called Tribal.
Tribal.
And yep. And what we've done is the three of us, we kind of help each other out networking. Hey, did you hear about this? Hey, did you hear about that? But we're three totally different entities. So I think that networking is a very, very important thing, and especially for up and coming people into the industry, as well as people who are well established, because that's how you're going to get your next gig. But I have a question for you, Sharon.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you tell me some of the advantages and disadvantages of networking?
Oh gosh, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's going to take up our full hour right there. The biggest advantage is, right, is getting to know people, understanding more about the industry. I think me personally, not everyone's a client for sure.
Mhm.
Most people aren't that I meet. Tom Truett's a great example. We were trying to figure this out and we saw each other last week. It's probably been about 10 years. Um, and we don't work together, but we're in the same industry. And so we connect in that way, and and here we are. But I think one of the advantages of networking is really just learning and absorbing and understanding more. And it's not about, especially coming from, if you're in sales or in your case, you're representing yourself, right? You're getting out there and trying to find your next gig. But the important thing is getting to know the people in the industry, understanding what they're doing, where they're coming from, what their challenges are. We'll talk about Tribal again. I'll plug Rachel Bronstein, Life Jam. Rachel started her company because she was a big fan of the live event industry, and
Mhm.
she paid a lot of attention. What were the pain points? What were people talking about and experiencing? And she heard so much about financial challenges that she was able to start a company supporting people who were having financial challenges. So I think that's a huge advantage of the networking, is that you just never know what's going to come of it. Between friendships, work opportunities, education, you
Mhm.
just don't know. Disadvantages, spreading yourself too thin.
Mhm.
Definitely, especially when you're in that off season of conferences, starting with Lidditz, going to LPS, Polestar, NAM, Fest Forum, all in this little span of time. Um, it could just be overwhelming, and when it's
Mhm.
overwhelming like that, there's not enough follow through. I think sometimes things slip through the cracks for sure. Um, I know when we were out at Polestar, um, I I skipped an event one night. I was like, I just have to get away from this. It's too much.
Mhm.
It was overwhelming. And so I went back to my hotel, just me having dinner, another guy across the room. Turned out he was doing the same thing, wound up making a connection, which was great.
Mhm.
But I think that's a disadvantage, is sometimes there's just too much happening. Would you agree?
I will totally agree. But I want to ask you another question
Oh,
about the networking part. Is from a trucking standpoint, out of your networking stuff, like when you're like submitting bids for tours and stuff,
Yeah.
do you have any a story to relay on some of the things that you don't like when people are asking for quotes? Because from my standpoint, from my production side, I always have to send out for quotes, and it's usually 2 or 3 quotes. Then I have to give them to the business manager. But what are some of the things that you don't like from a tour manager or production manager when they're asking for a quote?
The same thing that I didn't like when I was dating, being ghosted.
Oh, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, being ghosted is just very, very challenging. You don't know when, especially so if you're in the process of you're doing that dance of somebody's requested information, they've sent you routing, we've had several conversations and we put a bid together. There's an investment of time in putting that together and submitting it, and then not to get responses back, even when the response is no.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to get a response back just to know, okay, we know, can we move on? We keep I'm a handwritten visual person, so I keep a dry erase board of a schedule with all the tours color coded by, did we bid it? Did we get it? Did we not get it? Are we still waiting to hear? And when you're not getting, number one, you're not getting a response back, it's disrespectful.
I agree.
Right?
Yep.
It's disrespectful. We're all professionals. We're all trying to make it in the industry. Just have a little respect and common courtesy for each other and respond. But also feedback's important. So if somebody could take that moment to give you some feedback and say, hey, we had to go with this other company. Here's why. Whether it's a pricing issue or it's a relationship issue. Did they have an existing relationship? We bid on one last year where pricing was great, relationship was great, but they were based in Canada and they were very comfortable using a Canadian company, and that's fine. That's fantastic. But yeah, I think feedback and not being ghosted is really important, especially when you're connecting with people at these conferences and trying to follow up. Yeah, so you're doing kind of a similar thing, right? So how are you getting from tour to tour? Where are you finding those opportunities? And do you experience that at all? You're the great 5-1. I can't imagine people ghost you.
Oh, they do. Trust me. And I'm looking at David Boxenbaum's comment in the chat. Says the best time to network is when you don't need to network, i.e. are looking for a job, a deal, an artist, etc. And I told that one. When I lead like my college classes, I always tell students, with your resume, and this is what I do, is every 6 months, I update my resume and I send it out to people, whether I'm working or not, because you don't want people to just totally forget about you altogether. Yeah. So it's like, hey, just putting you back in the forefront. Here's my updated resume. I might be available this day, or I might not be available on this date, but just wanted to let you know I'm still around, because you never know. I get phone calls or texts from friends, agents, management firms from time to time. Hey, this might be out of your wheelhouse, but opportunity. And if it's not for you, can you refer someone? And that's the whole game of networking, is sometimes referring someone else. Right. Just like sometimes I'll refer something to you about a tour or something to Rachel and vice versa. It's playing the long game is what I've been taught. Don't stay in that small box all the time of, hey, I'm going to reach out because I'm hard up for a gig right now. Help me out. No, sometimes things, you never know in life. Something's just going to drop in your lap, just totally out of the blue. Here's a question I have for you, Sharon. Can you tell me a little bit more about Tribal and Rachel and us and kind of things that we do at Polestar and Lidditz?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So Tribal is it's just 3 of us in the industry. It's me, you, Rachel Bronstein that we just mentioned. How it came about, gosh, how did that come about?
Didn't we meet at Lidditz?
you and I met prior to Lidditz
Oh,
because of our
to a career
board.
workshop. Yep.
It was TCW.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes. We met at TCW. I think actually I very briefly may have met Rachel. I was speaking at a TCW. It was the tour manager and production manager forums. And I think I met Rachel there. Were you there at that one as well? Or did we meet on the board? I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
Yeah. So we connected, and we just connected in a way where, again, our roles in the industry are so incredibly different. But they're so interwoven. And, I have other people that I consult with that are outside the industry, that have nothing to do with my industry, that other business owners that we can just kind of talk things through with. But it's so helpful to find somebody that really understands the nature of what we do and our roles in the industry. So connecting with you and Rachel and carving out that time together, when we are at conferences, when we are at events, and that we're the three of us, because none of us live near each other. The three of us are gathered in the same city at the same time, and the importance of trying to find that time together. And was it Lidditz last year? I think it was Lidditz. Do you want to tell that story? So when we were at Lidditz, and we had talked in advance, and we said we really need to carve out time together. It's really important that we find time together. But when you're at a conference with 900 of your closest industry friends, that's sort of hard to do. So what did you do? Do you remember what you did?
No. Was it the dinner?
Yes.
Okay.
We were planning on meeting in the hotel restaurant. And when we got to the lobby and saw all those people, the only way into the restaurant was through the bar.
That's true. That's right.
Yes. And so you came up with the idea, and you said, I'm going to go ahead in first and go to the hostess. I'll secure a table in the back, and then you two enter separately, and I'll meet you at a table in the back.
That's right. I remember that.
I don't know how you got through the bar. But you got through the bar, you got to the hostess, and you told her that I was being stalked by an ex-boyfriend.
Partly
right?
true. Yep.
Yeah. And he was at the bar.
That's right. I forgot about that.
You asked her to put us at the table as far away from the bar in the back corner as possible, which was fantastic. And we got some good time together. We still had some traffic because we were close enough to the restrooms that.
Oh, that's right.
By too. Right. And there might have been some hurt feelings of people who caught us.
Yeah, but we definitely needed to kind of have that time, the three of us, because I believe that, but the good thing is that we're all on the East Coast, because you're in Nashville, I'm in Atlanta. I think Rachel's in Miami, but she's up in Connecticut. Okay. Rachel just said Miami. Okay, Rachel, sorry. So we're all East Coast people. So at least we're very close to the same time difference, that when we do chat, either via text or phone call or email, we're relatively close. But I want to move on to a next question for you, Sharon. And
another one for me. All righty.
This is maybe because I know that we spoke about this beforehand, maybe a tad bit uncomfortable, and it's about the diversity and inclusion stuff. And we both had talked about, it's been talked about ad nauseum, and that but sometimes we still need to bring up things. Can you share a story with us, or enlighten some of our listeners on your journey as a female owner of a company, which I only know of maybe 2 or 3 other women who own trucking companies, and kind of like your journey, how you got to how High Road got to where it is right now.
Yeah. So I'm done with DEI. Right. And I know you are as well. I've had these conversations. I appreciate the differences between men and women for sure. And I've said this in different interviews. Being treated differently in the trucking industry is not an experience that I've had. I've never been anything other than a woman, so I don't know what it's like to be treated as a man. And I don't feel like I'm treated differently. And I know other women have these experiences all the time. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen to me. It has not happened to me. I feel like I'm respected for who I am. I feel like I'm respected for the job that I do. And the last thing that I don't want to get jobs because I'm a female. I just don't. I want to stand on my merit. I want to stand on our reputation. I want to stand on our abilities and capabilities and our experience. I don't want to be hired. I don't want the asterisk next to my name.
Female owned.
Female owned, right? I have it on my literature, and I think I just took it off recently, because I'm a female. I mean, it is what it is, right? Having said that, there's some advantages to being a female. Well, first of all, I will say this. There's been a lot of conversations about women in the industry. And again, I understand there's a lot of different experiences. We have so many female tour managers. I mean, I think it was 2022, probably 40% of my clients were female. So we're there. I mean, we're there, right? I feel like.
But do you think that some of those female clients came to you because you're female owned? That might have been a kind of like, hey, we want to support one of our own.
I will say that may be true with some of them.
Okay.
Possibly, but some of them I'm not even getting the work from them. They're not even the ones booking it. They just happen to be the tour managers, the promoter, or somebody else might have brought us in. Here's what I will say though about being a female. We're all wired different, right? Whatever. We're all wired differently. I think from my perspective, I'll speak for my male drivers. They're much more comfortable opening up and sharing with me than I think they would be with other men, even with each other. So I know that it's a lot easier for them to open up, knowing that maybe I'll be a little bit more understanding, a little bit more compassionate. I won't just tell you to rub some dirt in it and go on your way. I think that that's an advantage. I don't know if that has more to do with me being a female or just my personality. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will say this about diversity. And we've talked about this before. I'm going to state the obvious. I don't know, you're Black, right? So I don't know if you know that. Okay.
What?
I know. But the best thing I've ever heard somebody say, Mia McNeil, CMA, she's the Senior Director of Industry and Inclusiveness. We were at a CMA event and she spoke about this, and it was it literally brought me to tears, because she talked about diversity. And she said, when she looks out at everybody, we are all diverse. We all have experiences that make us different from each other. And it's not just about our skin color or gender, or, there's a lot more to it. There's so much more to diversity than our physical appearance. A lot of people don't know my background, where I came from, how I was raised, what my education looked like, right? But when she talked about that, I talked to Mia afterwards, and I thanked her for saying that, because my two youngest kids, I have 4 children. My youngest 2 are blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like, oh, just beautiful, beautiful kids. But they were adopted out of foster care. And both my kids were born on heroin. And you look at these kids and you're like, they're privileged. These kids are privileged. That's not their experience. That was not their experience and how they started. So you can never look at my kids and say, I think I know where you're coming from. I think I know what your experiences are. I get you. I understand. You don't. You don't know. And I think that's a really hard thing. And that goes back to, I think, our networking and our conversations, and that if you don't look below that and you don't get to know somebody, you don't really
Mhm.
know them. You can't just look at somebody and say, I know you
Right.
based on what you look like. Yeah.
Right.
And I know you've had these experiences too. And I
Oh
know
yeah.
DEI, like we said, we're just kind of, bleh, we're tired of talking about it. How do you feel about it? Do you
Well,
feel like do you ever feel like you get hired? I know there's been instances where you feel like maybe you've not gotten hired because of your skin color. Do you ever feel like
mhm.
you've gotten hired
Oh
because of your
yeah.
skin?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll get calls, hey, and they'll start off, hey, we're looking for a Black tour manager, or hey, we're looking for a Black production manager. And sometimes it does work to my advantage, sometimes it doesn't. I also do country, I also do rock. But I think that some of the people who automatically dismiss me from getting hired, sometimes it's the good old boy network, and I get that. And
I
sometimes
get
people
that.
hire people that are within their social circle, and sometimes I'm not within that social circle. So, but some of the country management firms, artists that I've worked with, those are the people that took a chance on me. Because it's fine. You'll see like Black musicians in a country band. It's usually the drummer, the bass player, the background singers, but you
Mhm.
never, it's very rare you see a Black person in a managerial role, like tour manager, production manager. And I'll share a quick story with you. My good friend Malcolm Weldon, who's like the production manager, he's out with Pink, but he's done everyone from like the Eagles to Beyonce. I mean, like he's done everyone. And a few years ago, I got a call from him. He says, "Hey, I just got this call from Eric Church's camp, and they're speaking to me about coming out as production manager." And he says, "I'm kind of uncomfortable about it." So, what are you uncomfortable about? And he says, "Well, I'm going to be the only brother out there." And I said, "So?" I said, "Malcolm, you can do the job. Go out there, and you have to do it not only for yourself but for us, and to show them that our skin tone doesn't dictate how good we were." And he called me after the first week. He says, "Man, that first week was a little bit tough." And then he called me like 3 days later. He says, "Man, we're in a groove now." So um, he did the whole run, and it was a stadium run. He did the whole run. He killed it,
You
and
killed it.
he said, "I don't know why I was scared, but sometimes when you're the only brown faces out there, it is kind of scary because you can't really relate to other people or tell stories or share certain things with other people." But
Yeah.
that's
And
it.
we've had the same, we've had the polar opposite when we were out on the Her tour.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were the lightest skin color on the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's fantastic. It was fine. It was great. They were an amazing camp to work with. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So,
Go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead. Oh,
No,
no.
you go. Ladies first.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, um, talking about our careers, um, we've had lots of conversations, but I'd love for you to just kind of share some of this. Um, how did you how did this start for you? How did you get into, how'd you get into music? How'd you get into touring? How did you get into tour managing?
Well, my story is a little, not going to say difficult to chat about, but I was a drummer all through high school. And I was actually in a Rush cover band right out of high school. And I went right on tour.
Did you
Yep.
have, what was your hair like at the time?
No, I had dreads at the time. So
Photos, please.
I'm sorry.
Photos,
I'll,
please.
I'll send you one later. So I was 18, getting ready to turn 19, and I was on the road at the time. And I got a phone call like 5:30 in the morning from one of my neighbors that my parents were in a really horrific car accident, and um, I lost both my parents. So that, and I kind of lost the love and the will to play drums anymore after that traumatic experience. But I still wanted to stay involved with music. And my parents left my sister and myself a small inheritance. And I said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a recording studio, some gear, and then find someone to mentor and teach me how to engineer and mix. Because, when I was behind the drums, I would always watch the front of house guy, what he was doing, and ask him questions and stuff. And about 2 years in, one of the groups that was at my studio got signed to Motown. And when they went on the road, they were opening up for a major band. And when they went on the road, they asked me to come out and mix for them, which I did. And at the time, I met the headliner's tour manager with this lady named Karen Krattinger, who was the second of my third mentors when I was coming up. She was leaving to go work for Prince. And she says, hey, I've listened to your mixes. I've seen you're very detail oriented. You're very organized. You're pretty chill all the time. Would you be interested in making the jump up? And I was like, I'm driving a van, pulling a trailer with 10 guys in it, and I'm setting up all the gear, I'm mixing, I'm settling the shows, I'm doing everything. And I said, hell yeah, I would like to make that jump. And she said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the ropes for the next weeks. Since you're already out here on tour, you're going to be kind of doing double duty. But after I leave, you've got 2 weeks. If you have any questions or concerns, and after 2 weeks, it's sink or swim. And after 2 weeks, I really didn't have to call her anymore. And it just kind of snowballed into me working with other groups that were kind of based out of here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then my parents were very, very open-minded. And when I was growing up, they said, you can do anything you want. You can go anywhere you want. Don't let anyone hinder what you want to do in life. And I said, well, I want to do rock music. I want to do jazz. I want to do country. I don't want to like pigeonhole myself into just the R&B and hip hop world. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And back to my mentor, the first one, Tom Barfield, he always taught me, learn everything you can, learn tour managing, production managing, accounting. I was a Live Nation rep here in Atlanta for a year or two. So with me going on tour, I can see it from both sides of the table. Like if a show is tanking, I know how to cut things to kind of not make it such a bloodbath for the promoter. And I think promoters really appreciate that. But I also look out for the artist, and I'll go to the artist or my crew or my staff and say, hey guys, this show is not selling very well. We're going to need to do some cuts here, but where we're going to cut is not going to be a disadvantage to you. It's things that we already have on the bus, things that we don't need today or for this show. Just small things make big things. And I think that has really helped me get from doing tour managing, production managing, because Tom Barfield, and if you guys look him up, that dude he's a monster. I mean, like he used to work with like Rick James and Judas Priest and Motley Crue, all of these people. And his financial brain is like off the charts as far as stuff. And I speak with him maybe every couple of months or so. But that was my journey to where we are right now.
Did you ever, you just froze up for a sec. Did you ever struggle? Yeah. Did you ever struggle with imposter syndrome as you were going from, like you said, driving a van with 10 guys and all of a sudden you made this jump up? Did you ever feel like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here?
No, because I've always felt I've been kind of like a practicing Buddhist for years. So I always believe that you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be at that particular time, and things come to you when they're supposed to come to you. You might not know why certain things happen, but they happen for a reason. So I don't think so. I mean, like I've had some humbling experiences that we're going to talk about later when I was coming up. Speaking of which, can you tell me a defining moment for you when you knew that you had finally earned a seat at the table?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I'm prepared to answer it.
Okay.
No, I mean, I don't think I had one defining moment. I don't think there was just one instance where I went, okay. There were definitely, I would say there's some moments that were celebratory and exciting that I thought, oh wow. And Chris Musgrave is here. First year I spoke at LPS. that was legit for me. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I'm here with my peers, and I'm on the stage addressing some industry concerns and things that we need to have open conversations about. And that was definitely a cool moment for me. First time I had to fire a driver. That's one of those moments that you're like, okay, I've made it, and oh, this really sucked. Because you're it, right? Like there's nobody else to make that decision or to make that call or to have that hard conversation. So even though you know what I'm saying? Like it's, yes, I
You
made
felt
it.
like you were being recognized finally. Well, not finally, but
Right. Well, right where you find not, yeah, again, not finally, but it's that moment where there's no one but you. You know,
mhm.
you're the only one who can deal with this. And while firing somebody's a difficult conversation to have, there is that moment of like, oh my gosh, this is, this crap's real. And
Mhm.
it's crap. Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me is during the pandemic, we had our Tour Manager 101 webinar thing that we did. And we did 78 episodes. They're all up on YouTube right now. But
Yes.
for me, I was overseas last year with Evanescence, and we were playing this festival in Germany. And I was in catering, and this young lady came up to me, and she spoke very uh, difficult kind of English. And she said, "Excuse me, are you the 5-1?" I said, yes. She says, "I just wanted to thank you because I watched TM 101 during the whole pandemic." And I was like, holy shit, that thing really touched people all around the world. And when I speak with uh, Doug and Adrian and MJ and Mark and Henry and um, Jim, that they have the same things that when they're touring around the world, that someone will come up to them and say, "Hey, I recognize you from TM 101." And for me, that was when, wow, people outside of touring really watched that, and it actually touched a lot of people all around the world. And I think
Yeah.
for me, that was kind of an eye opener type of thing. Of not that I've not made it, but kind of like being recognized. And I've been at some festivals here in the States also. Someone, will come up and say, "Hey, man, I just want to thank you for TM 101. Can you tell the other 6 people who were on the panel that we said hello and said thank you?" And
That's
TM
awesome.
101, we still have our own WhatsApp group chat that we kind of
Yeah.
text each other from time to time of like updates and stuff. So for me, that was eye-opening for me, that you do this one small thing. And we just did it during the pandemic just to keep our minds active and to share things touring wise, because we didn't know when we were going to come back out. We
That's
were
right.
out of pocket, what, year and a half? But 78 episodes was a lot. And we did
It
it
was so
every
impressive.
weekend. Yeah, it was amazing.
That is amazing.
Um,
And the thing I got out of that is from now on, I'm calling you the 5-1.
are you the 5-1? Yep.
Yeah.
I see Billy
Fantastic.
says Team 101 is such an excellent resource. Thanks, Billy. I appreciate that. Oh, and
Right.
then Tom says, a question from Zach. A lot of artists or employers will hire based off of experience. What is a good way in today's market to find a starting opportunity in the tour management
It's a
industry?
great question, Zach.
That
Really
is
good.
that is a good
Yeah.
one.
I'm going to
Um,
let you field that one because I can say for us, I mean, I do hire people administratively and for support, but drivers are drivers are drivers. There has to be experience behind them. So that's definitely a you question.
um, a starting opportunity in tour management industry is same thing I tell students. Take any job, because like, work as a runner, try to work with a local promoter or booking agency or management firm, because that way you're going to learn some of the terms that we use in the industry. You're going to watch other people who've done it, and try to, and again, back to the mentorship, try to find a mentor. Like Lucas Meek, who's on here,
Hugely important. Yeah.
I read his website like religion for like tips and stuff. like, and he has this book called The Efficient
Hustle. The Efficient
Yep.
Hustle.
Yep, I'm looking at it
Got
right
it right there.
now.
Hey,
Yep,
Lucas.
yep,
Right
yep.
there.
So if you guys get a chance, get that book. It's on Amazon, or you can go to his website.
Yes.
It is a great read if you're just coming up or if you're already established, because man, he dropped some gems in there. I was like, holy shit, I never even thought about that. That's yeah. And in my little notepad, I'm like, okay, on my next tour, I'm going to try this because Lucas said this, this. So yeah, anything. And then I would say go to any of these conferences like LPS and LitEds and the
Right.
Touring Career Workshop, because that way you're going to network with tour managers, production managers, agents, management. So that's
Yeah.
what I would do.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of TCW, hey, Kara Kemp, can you drop a link in the chat there for everyone? We do a monthly event called Day Off. So if you're in the Nashville area or you're going to be in the Nashville area once a month, second Monday of the month, we get together, we do something, sometimes fun, mostly fun. We try to have fun. It's kayaking next month. So yeah, it's one of those opportunities, and you don't know who's going to show up and who's going to be there and who you're going to meet and who you're going to connect with. So
Sharon,
yeah, yeah.
share about the car giveaway thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So very exciting. So David and I talked about Touring Career Workshop, fantastic nonprofit organization. We have a lot of different legs of support that we offer to the touring industry. We had an opportunity. I have a close friend of mine who runs a nonprofit, Mechanics on a Mission, here in Nashville, gives away cars to those that need them. And so TCW as a board, we decided that we were going to support that effort. And we just put the word out. Was there a need? Was there someone out there with a need for a car? And Riley Vasquez, who runs Tour Collective, another fantastic organization that supports training up the next gen of tour managers, he put it out, and someone through Riley reached out to me. It was a sweet, super sweet young couple having their first baby. He was a guitar tech, is a guitar tech, had just come off the road to have their first baby, wanted to be home for the child, had planned everything out. And their one card that they had died. And so they were just not in the right position to help out. So TCW partnered with Mechanics on a Mission, and Mechanics on a Mission partners with a bunch of other great car organizations that they bring in a car and they do all the work and they get it ready. And so during a TCW, our inaugural Day Off event in January, no, I'm sorry, it was the November one. January was the second car we gave away. Our workshop in November, we gave away a car to a sweet guitar tech and his wife, and the week before their baby was born. So baby got to come to TCW as well. So yeah, that was really exciting. And go to the website, go to Kara, thank you. Go to the Touring Career Workshop website. There's a lot of resources on there. A lot of things that we're doing that are exciting, but yeah. So I know we're getting toward the end of the time, and I feel like we just have a lot more to talk about. I have one for you. So we've talked about how you started. We talked about how you knew when you had that seat at the table. Tell me about a really incredibly awkward moment in your career. Something you can share.
Okay. Awkward one was when I lost sight of my job. At the time, Matchbox 20 was huge at the time. And my friend Dean Serletic at the time was leaving Matchbox 20 as tour manager to move into more of a managerial role. And he asked me to come in and tour manage. And I was like, oh, these guys are huge. They're like playing arenas and all this stuff. And I did everything completely wrong on that. And
oh my gosh.
I mean, everything. we had a show in Germany, a festival that we were playing with Santana. And that was the heyday of when Rob Thomas had done that song with Santana. And we were over in Europe, and this was still back in the time where you really didn't have cell phones. You had a rented cell phone, and I really didn't know how to work it very well.
Yeah.
And our production manager at the time didn't make the trip over, so that fell into my lap also. Come to find out that our backline got held up in customs, so we didn't have any backline. So it was a mad scramble to try to find backline to play the show. And unfortunately, I couldn't find anything. And we had to cancel the show with Santana. And man, I tell you, I felt about this big that I had failed them. But I mean, I had done everything. And the other thing that I had done is in the States, one of my friends who was a big time tour manager had a tour bus that had an office in it. And I said, well, Matchbox 20, I need to have a tour office on the bus. So I'm going to get a bus with a tour office. Man, I was so out of my realm and not thinking straight. I was thinking more of myself instead of the overall being of the tour. And I don't know if you guys know Robert Scoville. He's this famous front of house engineer. He's still a good friend of mine. I mean, like, he's mixed Prince. He's done, everybody, Matchbox 20. He did Rush for several years. And I remember we were someplace and he could tell that I was really down. He says, man, I tell you what, stop feeling down on yourself, put on your big boy pants and get back on the horse. And I tell you, that was some of the greatest advice that I had heard, because I just felt like I had just failed and that, everyone was going to hate me. I'm never going to get hired again. But it was a learning lesson. It was very, very humbling. But I tell you one thing, every tour since then, I don't think about myself. I only think about the artist getting from point A to point B, making sure everyone's safe, making sure everyone gets paid, making sure everyone has all the info that they need in master tour. So there's like, no one said, well, I didn't know, or someone didn't tell me. Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. So
I think the most important thing there is, right, it's a lesson learned. So
yep.
You did something, you recognize you did something, autocorrect, right? And you learn from it. Yeah. Yep. Mine's not quite as deep, honestly.
Tell me.
Yeah, I'm like thinking like awkward, right? So awkward. So sometimes I say things and I think I'm funny. I think I'm funny. So I'm at a festival. I'm talking to Brad Corrigan from Dispatch. And we're just hanging out and talking, and Mac Powell from Third Day walks in and he comes over and he's like, hey man, I heard your new stuff. I just love your new stuff. And Brad's like, oh man, yeah, I heard your stuff. Your stuff's great. And I was like, what does everybody think about my new stuff? And they both just turned and looked at me. And I felt so dumb. I thought
did they give you the look?
Yes, they were like, well, there was like this quick, like, should we know who you are? And then we were like, you're nobody. I just felt so dumb. I just kind of skulked away.
Jeez.
I thought it was funny. I don't know.
Well, we've got 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask a question. Then we're going to see if there's any more questions in the chat. But Sharon, what's next for yourself and High Road?
Yeah. So, we have a lot of, we launched this thing last year. It was kind of a soft launch, more of a, hey, have you heard about, we're doing this thing called Tour Up, where we're focusing on those artists that are just getting into a semi-truck, one or two semi-trucks, or maybe they're already in one or two semi-trucks, but it's a tour manager, production manager that's wearing a lot of hats, maybe a little less experienced. So Tour Up, no additional charge, but we put an experienced driver with them, and we really walk and handhold them through some of the processes, like border crossing.
Smart.
Getting into Canada, if you've never done it, it seems like such a huge task. And again, this is one of those things that out at LPS last year, connected with somebody who does customs.
Mhm.
Had never, we had never met before, but at LPS. And when we were on this tour, and they said, "Oh crap, what do we do?"
Mhm.
I made a phone call. I said, "I know. Here's who you talk to. He can help." And everything got taken care of. So that's one of the things that we just that we've been working on. But we have some great tours coming up. We're back out with Dropkick Murphys, one of our favorite artists that we
Austin.
yeah. And I don't know how we did this. It just happened. We have a niche market. I'm in Nashville, so go figure. Heavy metal is sort of a niche market for us. So we're out with Architects and Avatar and Powerwolf. Um, have some really good heavy metal artists we're going out with. A couple of Sleater Kinney, and a couple of K-pop. I don't know, heavy metal and K-pop for some reason. I don't know. I don't know, but we love it. That's great. Yeah. How about you?
Well, interesting segue there.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be at Lidditz this week for the next month doing rehearsals, but my artist 3 weeks ago at Coachella jumped off the stage, broke his foot in several different places. I think he's got 9 or 10 screws. He just posted last night. He just had the second surgery. So his rehab time is 3 to 6 months. So we canceled the first leg, and then he canceled the second leg. But it looks like tentatively we're going to go out in March of next year. So I've been doing the networking thing of sending out my resume, letting people know that I'm now available. So that's it for me. But my company, Tour Forensics, we do a lot of remote advance work for several acts. We've especially international acts that have never toured the state. So we do a lot of stuff to help them with visas, immigration, staffing up, getting buses and stuff. So we've been keeping quite busy with that. My business partner, Gabby Para, we actually met on Earth, Wind, and Fire. So that's what's next for us.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, looks like we've got, my gosh, there's something that just came up in the chat. Is that
Takeaways from the meeting.
Lindsay Schwartz, you rock, girl. Look at that. Look at that.
Does anybody have any questions for Sharon or myself?
Hey, there was one in here from Eric Kinney. He wanted to know about breaking into the business, maybe at the lower level. I don't know him or how much experience he has, but he wants to hear some wisdom from you guys about what younger people, less experienced people may need to do to get attention of decision makers like yourselves.
Oh. Sharon, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I will say is, get out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your biggest thing, right? Get out there. We were just last week was Music Biz, a lot of parties happening. Really excited. TCW had a party. Forgive me if you're on here. Man, I can't pronounce your last name. Belmont student was there, and man, he just lit up the room with his smile because he just got his first tour managing gig.
Michael
And
Shearer.
yes, thank you.
Yep.
Just got his first TM gig. Yeah. So Michael from Belmont is awesome. Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so get out there, be involved, be at events, offer, jump in, help out, volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't always in touring. I did something totally different. And I was in trucking doing corporate and trade shows, wanted to get into the touring side of things and didn't know what I didn't know. Called a touring promoter and said, a concert promoter, and said, how do I do this? And he said, come to our next show. And I went to the next show. I held a spotlight. I mean, free, like here, hold this spotlight. And I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to get me into tour tracking, but here I am holding a spotlight, trying to follow that guy on the stage. Do what you have to do. Get out there, work, volunteer, get your name out there. Agree, disagree, other suggestions?
I totally agree. I not only the volunteer stuff, I think that if you can go out and shadow someone
Yes.
to see how things are actually done, and that could be in any career, it could be in radio, it could be like I know that there's some people that are going to aspire to own their own company one day. You know, if they could come and shadow you for a day to see how you talk to people, how you do your business. I think that shadowing opportunities are something that people are scared to ask to do, but why? Why be scared? I mean, like the worst thing that could happen is someone could say no. The best thing that could happen is someone say, sure, come on, pick my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Or
advice.
they could ghost you.
So what?
I said, or they could ghost you.
Oh, yes.
That's great advice, 5-1. Hey, 5-1, here's a question for you from Luke Meek. What are some factors you consider when offered gigs with conflicting dates?
Ooh, you mean how to choose between one or the other?
I would imagine that's what he's
Okay.
asking.
Look, let me see. I think he just said here. Yes. Okay. Um, I always base it on these two different things. Which I'm not going to say which gig is going to be easier, but which gig is going to offer you the less headaches. You don't want to take a gig. Sometimes the higher paying gig isn't the smart gig for you. You have to do your due diligence and do your work. Like, is this a difficult artist? Is this, do they have 15 people on a bus? Is everyone doubling up in hotel rooms? Those kind of things can make your life very, very difficult over maybe taking less money, and it's easier for you not only mentally but physically. And those would be the two aspects that I would look into. And you can go old school, get a piece of paper and do pros and cons of each one, and then that answers. But the big thing that I tell people, for me, is what your gut tells you, because your gut's never going to be wrong ever. So if your gut says this gig is not the right gig, you should go with what your gut says.
The one thing I'll add to that too is if you've already made a commitment and something better comes along, honor your commitments.
Yep, I have to agree.
Your commitments.
Yep.
Your reputation will precede you the next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you have dispensed a lot of great wisdom to this audience today. I promised them in my introduction that they would leave more inspired and enlightened than they arrived. I think you've delivered on that promise, so thank you.
Thank you.
To the
Thank you,
audience, thanks for your time and your questions today. You've got a lot of great wisdom and advice from these guys. They know what they're talking about. I hope everyone has a safe and happy Memorial Day holiday, and don't forget the meaning behind Memorial Day. And I hope to see you all out there on the road somewhere this summer, maybe at Bonnaroo or Newport or elsewhere. But be safe and be nice to each other.
Thanks, Tom. Everybody.
Bye. Thank y'all.